Hi, and welcome to our Adobe Illustrator in Under 10 tutorial series where we explain techniques in Adobe Illustrator in under 10 minutes. Right now, we are going to discuss the pen tool. Now, working with this tool, normally whenever I do a video, it usually is split into two parts and it may take 30 minutes per session. So what I'm going to try to do is condense this, and it is going to move fast. Does not mean that you have to be an expert. You can actually be a novice and you can completely follow along. If I move too fast on any portion of this, you can pause the video and you can go back and make sure that you got everything under wraps before you move on. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to select our pen tool, which is the P button on the keyboard, or if you look in your tools icon, it is the one that looks like a fountain pen. So you would click that, and right now, let me take the fill off of this. Let me make sure the stroke is large enough where you can see, and I'm just going to click some points. Now this is the basic use of the pen tool. You click any point on the actual artboard and you will create little anchor points. Now the reason they're called anchor points is because they push and pull and hold the line in place depending upon where the last point was placed. Alright, so if you look at it, this point was here, so I could flex it anywhere in 360 degrees around that point had I chose to. Same thing for any other subsequent point that came afterwards. Now, let's delete this. And what we'll do is we'll click again. And instead of this time just clicking a point, we're going to click and drag. And when we do that, you can create curves. And curves are going to be relative, again, to the previous anchor point. But what you'll notice is that the things that extend from it are called handles. And the way we call it a curve is it's described as a bezier curve. That's what we call them in Adobe Illustrator. So if you ever find one or a tutorial, or you see something and they're referring to that, they're just referring to the curves that you get when you're using handles and like the pen tool or the anchor point tool in Adobe Illustrator or any other vector program. So right now, if I were to let it go, you're going to notice that the curve comes to this actual anchor point. Now the previous point, it will actually change depending on how sharp of an angle you're actually making. So right now, because this is a curve, I'm going to click again, and this new anchor point is going to be relative to the previous curve and that anchor point, as well as how far out that bezier handle right here actually goes. And then we'll have our new subsequent anchor point here. Now, you may want to change these handles, and an easy way to do that is you can either use the direct selection tool, which is the A button on your keyboard, or you can hold down the Alt key, and that will change your tool to the Convert Anchor Point tool. And that allows you to grab bezier handles, and you can actually push and pull those. Another thing you could do is while holding that Alt key, you can click a curved anchor point and remove a specific handle by making it an actual angle and no longer a curve. Let me go over that again. So we'll take this, we'll create a point here, we'll create a curve here, we'll create another curve here, and one more just for good measure. Now that we have the anchor point tool, or I'm sorry, the pen tool selected, we'll hold the Alt key down and we'll get our anchor point tool. And this is the Convert Anchor Point tool. So we'll click this and you'll notice it creates a point now. It takes that curve away. And we'll click this and it creates the point, takes the curve away. Now, here's what you can do. You can click and drag a point out and you'll get bezier handles for your bezier curve. All right, and then you can individually change and manipulate these handles independent of one another. Or if you wanted, let's say, and we'll delete this again, we create another set of curves. And we wanted to create a change in the curve, but we don't want to create it independent of one another. Grab your direct selection tool, grab that handle, and then you can move and flex that point, and you'll notice that the other point moves with respect to the new coordinates of this handle. Now you can push and pull this handle in, but the other handle will remain the same unless you then select that point and then select that handle. Now the other handle will remain the same while you can push and pull this one. If you wanted to change that, you can hold the Alt key down, click that handle, and now you can adjust that while the direct selection tool is selected. Okay, another good thing to know about the pen tool, we're going to click a point, click another one. And let's say we wanted to create a point that intersected right about here, right? We're going to take that off. But let's say we accidentally put it here. Now, what we might do, some people, they may delete that point, but we don't want to actually do that, okay? So let's say we go here, and again, we had put the point here. If you have not lifted up your mouse or your finger off the touchpad or your tablet pen, you hold the space bar and you can move that actual anchor point. It will not be anchored until you release the actual pen. Like, you may sit it and let the space bar go, and now it'll sit there and you can see whether or not that's where you want it. You can hit the space bar again and you can move it. You could also hit the Alt key and change that handle so that you can change the angle of the resulting line following that. Another thing that you can do is, let's say we are creating this and we wanted to lock it in a straight line, we would hold our Shift key and it will lock at 45-degree angles so that we can get straight lines. It'll also allow us, if we're moving it, to keep it set in that position once we've moved it with the space bar. And then you can let it go, and then you have your lines there. So these are the ways that you can actually utilize the pen tool, and you can create lines. Now, here's the thing. You may want to delete some of these anchor points. You also may want to add and manipulate. That is the other portion that I did not discuss yet. So if you look under the drop-down options for this tool, you notice there is an add anchor point, delete anchor point, and then the regular anchor point tool, each with their own shortcut. The plus symbol is the add anchor point tool. You can click anywhere on a line segment and you can add an anchor point. You can grab that anchor point with the direct selection tool, which we described as using the letter A on your keyboard as a shortcut or going over to your toolbar. And you can shift and pull, still manipulate in the same way that you did previously with the anchor points. And if you have the convert anchor point tool, let's go back to our pen tool area. Down here, anchor point tool, you hold Shift and C, and you can create that, and you can actually change it from a point to a curve, back to a point, so on and so forth, and you can still manipulate the handles independent of one another. The other item we have here is the delete anchor point tool, and that's with the minus symbol on the keyboard, and you can go around and actually delete unwanted anchor points. Once you delete one, as you'll notice, this anchor point is only separated from this anchor point by this one in the middle, so it will naturally adjust and adapt to what the angles are from this point to that point once I delete this. Okay, and that is how you utilize the pen tool with its options, the delete anchor point, the add anchor point, and convert or anchor point tool that are under its options in the panel. All right, so I look forward to seeing you guys in the next tutorial. If you have any questions, you can visit me online, www.theonewillfocus.com, or on Instagram, where the majority of my work is shown, at @theonewillfocus, all spelled out, TheOnewillfocus. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care.